Chapter 7. A Trip to China. Come, little girl, I've got another dose for you. I fancy you won't take it as well as you did the last, but you will like it better after a while, said Dr. Alec, about a week after the grand surprise. Rose was sitting in her pretty room, where she would gladly have spent all her time if it had been allowed, but she looked up with a smile, for she had ceased to fear her uncle's remedies and was always ready to try a new one. The last had been a set of light gardening tools with which she had helped him put the flower beds in order, learning all sorts of new and pleasant things about the plants as she worked, for though she had studied botany at school, it seemed very dry stuff compared with Uncle Alec's lively lesson. "What is it now?" she asked, shutting her workbox without a murmur. "Salt water." "How must I take it?" "Put on the new suit Miss Hemming sent home yesterday and come down to the beach. Then I'll show you." "Yes, sir," answered Rose obediently, adding to herself, with a shiver, as he went off, "It is too early for bathing, so I know it is something to do with a dreadful boat." Putting on the new suit of blue flannel, prettily trimmed with white, and a little sailor hat with long streamers, diverted her mind from the approaching trial, till a shrill whistle reminded her that her uncle was waiting. Away she ran through the garden, down the sandy path, out upon the strip of beach that belonged to the house, and here she found Dr. Alec busy with a slender red and white boat that lay rocking on the rising tide. "That is a dear little boat, and Bonnie Belle is a pretty name," she said, trying not to show how nervous she felt.
"It is for you, so sit in the stern and learn to steer till you are ready to learn to row." "Do all boats wiggle about in that way?" she asked, lingering as if to tie her hat more firmly. "Oh yes, pitch about like nutshells when the sea is a bit rough," answered her sailor uncle, never guessing her secret woe. "Is it rough today?" "Not very. It looks a trifle squally to the eastward, but we are all right till the wind changes. Come." "Can you swim, Uncle?" asked Rose, clutching at his arm as he took her hand. "Like a fish. Now then." "Oh, please hold me very tight till I get there. Why do you have the stern so far away?" And stifling several squeaks of alarm in her passage, Rose crept to the distant seat and sat there holding on with both hands and looking as if she expected every wave to bring a sudden shipwreck. Uncle Alec took no notice of her fear, but patiently instructed her in the art of steering till she was so absorbed in remembering which was starboard and which larboard that she forgot to say "ow" every time a big wave slapped against the boat. "Now where shall we go?" she asked, as the wind blew freshly in her face, and a few long, swift strokes sent them half across the little bay. "Suppose we go to China." "Isn't that a rather long voyage?" "Not as I go. Steer round the point into the harbor, and I'll give you a glimpse of China in 20 minutes or so." "I should like that." And Rose sat wondering what he meant while she enjoyed the new sights all about her. Behind them, the green ant-hill sloped gently upward to the grove at the top, and all along the seaward side stood familiar houses, stately, cozy, or picturesque. As they rounded the point, the great bay opened before them full of shipping, and the city lay beyond, its spires rising above the tall masts with their gay streamers. "Are we going there?" she asked, for she had never seen this aspect of the rich and busy old city before. "Yes. Uncle Mac has a ship just in from Hong Kong, and I thought you would like to go and see it." "Oh, I should. I love dearly to go poking about in the warehouses with Uncle Mac. Everything is so curious and new to me, and I'm specially interested in China because you have been there. I'll show you 2 genuine Chinamen who have just arrived. You will like to welcome Wang Lo and Fun Si, I'm sure." Don't ask me to speak to them, Uncle. I shall be sure to laugh at the odd names and the pigtails and the slanting eyes. Please let me just trot round after you. I like that best." "Very well. Now steer toward the wharf, where the big ship with the queer flag is. That's the Rajah, and we will go aboard if we can." In among the ships they went, by the wharves where the water was green and still, and queer barnacles grew on the slippery piles. Odd smells saluted her nose, and odd sights met her eyes. But Rose liked it all, and played she was really landing in Hong Kong when they glided up to the steps in the shadow of the tall Rajah. Boxes and bales were rising out of the hold and being carried into the warehouse by stout porters who tugged and bawled and clattered about with small trucks or worked cranes with iron claws that came down and clutched heavy weights, whisking them aloft to where wide doors like mouths swallowed them up. Dr. Alec took her aboard the ship, and she had the satisfaction of poking her inquisitive little nose into every available corner, at the risk of being crushed, lost, or drowned. "Well, child, how would you like to take a voyage round the world with me in a jolly old craft like this?" asked her uncle, as they rested a minute in the captain's cabin. "I should like to see the world, but not in such a small, untidy, smelly place as this. We would go in a yacht, all clean and comfortable. Charlie says that is the proper way," answered Rose, surveying the close quarters with little favor. "You are not a true Campbell if you don't like the smell of tar and salt water, nor Charlie either, with his luxurious yacht. Now come ashore and chin-chin with the Celestials." After a delightful progress through the great warehouse, peeping and picking as they went, they found Uncle Mac and the yellow gentleman in his private room, where samples, gifts, curiosities, and newly arrived treasures of all sorts were piled up in pleasing profusion and confusion. As soon as possible, Rose retired to a corner, with a porcelain god on one side, a green dragon on the other, and, what was still more embarrassing, Fun-See sat on a tea-chest in front and stared at her with his beady black eyes till she did not know where to look. Mr. Wanglo was an elderly gentleman in American costume, with his pigtail neatly wound round his head. He spoke English and was talking busily with Uncle Mac in the most commonplace way, so Rose considered him a failure. But Fun-See was delightfully Chinese, from his junk-like shoes to the button on his pagoda hat, for he had got himself up in style and was a mass of silk jackets and slouchy trousers. He was short and fat and waddled comically.
His eyes were very slanting, as Rose said. His queue was long, so were his nails. His yellow face was plump and shiny, and he was altogether a highly satisfactory Chinaman. Uncle Alec told her that Fun-See had come out to be educated and could only speak a little pidgin English, so she must be kind to the poor fellow, for he was only a lad, though he looked nearly as old as Mr. Wang Lo. Rose said she would be kind, but had not the least idea how to entertain the queer guest who looked as if he had walked out of one of the rice paper landscapes on the wall and sat nodding at her so like a toy mandarin that she could hardly keep sober. In the midst of her polite perplexity, Uncle Mac saw the two young people gazing wistfully at one another and seemed to enjoy the joke of this making acquaintance under difficulties. Taking a box from his table, he gave it to Fun-See with an order that seemed to please him very much. Descending from his perch, he fell to unpacking it with great neatness and dispatch, while Rose watched him, wondering what was going to happen. Presently, out from the wrappings came a teapot, which caused her to clasp her hands with delight, for it was made in the likeness of a plump little Chinaman. His hat was the cover, his cue the handle, and his pipe the nose. It stood upon feet in shoes turned up at the toes, and the smile on the fat, sleepy face was so like that on Fun's when he displayed the teapot that Rose couldn't help laughing, which pleased him much.
2 pretty cups with covers and a fine scarlet tray completed the set and made one long to have a dish of tea, even in Chinese style, without cream or sugar. When he had arranged them on a little table before her, Fun signified in pantomime that they were hers from her uncle.
She returned her thanks in the same way, whereupon he returned to his tea chest, and having no other means of communication, they sat smiling and nodding at one another in an absurd sort of way, till a new idea seemed to strike Fun. Tumbling off his seat, he waddled away as fast as his petticoats permitted, leaving Rose hoping that he had not gone to get a roasted rat, a stewed puppy, or any other foreign mess which civility would oblige her to eat. While she waited for her funny new friend, she improved her mind in a way that would have charmed Aunt Jane. The gentlemen were talking over all sorts of things, and she listened attentively, storing up much of what she heard, for she had an excellent memory, and longed to distinguish herself by being able to produce some useful information when reproached with her ignorance. She was just trying to impress upon her mind that Amoy was 280 miles from Hong Kong when Fun came scuffling back, bearing what she thought was a small sword, till he unfurled an immense fan and presented it with a string of Chinese compliments, the meaning of which would have amused her even more than the sound if she could have understood it. She had never seen such an astonishing fan, and at once became absorbed in examining it. Of course, there was no perspective whatever, which only gave it a peculiar charm to Rose, for in one place a lovely lady with blue knitting needles in her hair sat directly upon the spire of a stately pagoda. In another charming view, a brook appeared to flow in at the front door of a stout gentleman's house, and out at his chimney. In a third, a zigzag wall went up into the sky like a flash of lightning. And a bird with 2 tails was apparently brooding over a fisherman whose boat was just going aground upon the moon. It was altogether a fascinating thing, and she would have sat wafting it to and fro all the afternoon, to Fun's great satisfaction, if Dr. Alec's attention had not suddenly been called to her by a breeze from the big fan that blew his hair into his eyes and reminded him that they must go. So the pretty china was repacked, Rose furled her fan, and with several parcels of choice teas for the old ladies stowed away in Dr. Alec's pockets, they took their leave, after Fun had saluted them with the 3 bendings and the 9 knockings, as they salute the Emperor or Son of Heaven at home. "I feel as if I had really been to China, and I'm sure I look so," said Rose, as they glided out of the shadow of the Rajah. She certainly did, for Mr. Wang Lo had given her a Chinese umbrella, Uncle Alec had got some lanterns to light up her balcony, the great fan lay in her lap, and the tea set reposed at her feet. "This is not a bad way to study geography, is it?" asked her uncle, who had observed her attention to the talk. "It is a very pleasant way, and I really think I have learned more about China today than in all the lessons I had at school, though I used to rattle off the answers as fast as I could go. No one explained anything to us, so all I remember is that tea and silk come from there, and the women have little bits of feet. I saw Fun looking at mine, and he must have thought them perfectly immense," answered Rose, surveying her stout boots with sudden contempt. "We will have out the maps and the globe, and I'll show you some of my journeys, telling stories as we go. That will be next best to doing it actually."
"You are so fond of traveling, I should think it would be very dull for you here, Uncle. Do you know, Aunt Plenty says she is sure you will be off in a year or 2.
"Very likely."
"Oh, me? What shall I do then?" sighed Rose, in a tone of despair that made Uncle Alec's face brighten with a look of genuine pleasure, as he said significantly, "Next time I go, I shall take my little anchor with me. How will that suit?" "Really, Uncle?" "Really, niece." Rose gave a little bounce of rapture, which caused the boat to wiggle in a way that speedily quieted her down. but she sat beaming joyfully and trying to think which of some 100 questions she would ask first, when Dr. Alec said, pointing to a boat that was coming up behind them in great style, "How well those fellows row! Look at them and take notes for your own use by and by." The stormy Petrel was manned by half a dozen jaunty-looking sailors who made a fine display of blue shirts and shiny hats with stars and anchors in every direction. How beautifully they go, and they are only boys. Why, I do believe they're our boys. Yes, I see Charlie laughing over his shoulder. "Row, Uncle, row! Oh, please do, and not let them catch up with us," cried Rose in such a state of excitement that the new umbrella nearly went overboard. "All right, here we go." And away they did go with a long, steady sweep of the oars that carried the Bonnie Belle through the water with a rush. The lads pulled their prettiest, but Dr. Alec would have reached the point first if Rose, in her flurry, had not retarded him by jerking the rudder ropes in a most unseamanlike way. And just as she got right again, her hat blew off.
That put an end to the race, and while they were still fishing for the hat, the other boat came alongside, with all the oars in the air and the jolly young tars ready for a frolic. "Did you catch a crab, Uncle?" "No, a bluefish," he answered, as the dripping hat was landed on a seat to dry. "What have you been doing?" "Seeing fun." "Good for you, Rose. I know what you mean. We are going to have him up to show us how to fly the big kite, for we can't get the hang of it. Isn't he great fun, though?" "No, little fun." "Come, stop joking and show us what you've got. You'd better hoist that fan for a sail. Lend Dandy your umbrella. He hates to burn his pretty nose. I say, Uncle, are you going to have a feast of lanterns?" "No, I'm going to have a feast of bread and butter, for it's tea time. If that black cloud doesn't lie, we shall have a gust before long, so you had better get home as soon as you can, or your mother will be anxious, Archie." "Aye, aye, Skipper. Good night, Rose. Come out often and we'll teach you all there is to know about rowing," was Charlie's modest invitation. Then the boats parted company, and across the water from the Petrel's crew came a verse from one of the nonsense songs in which the boys delighted. "Oh, Timbaloo, how happy we are! We live in a sieve and a crockery jar, and all night long in the starlight pale we sail away with a pea-green sail, and whistle and warble a moony song to the echoing sound of a coppery gong. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve."
Chapter 8, and What Came of It. "Uncle, could you lend me a 9-pence? I'll return it as soon as I get my pocket money," said Rose, coming into the library in a great hurry that evening. "I think I could, and I won't charge any interest for it, so you need not be in any hurry to repay me. Come back here and help me settle these books, if you have nothing pleasanter to do," answered Dr. Alec, handing out the money with that readiness which is so delightful when we ask small loans. "I'll come in a minute. I've been longing to fix my books, but didn't dare to touch them because you always shake your head when I read." "I shall shake my head when you write, if you don't do it better than you did in making out this catalog. I know it's bad, but I was in a hurry when I did it, and I'm in one now." And away went Rose, glad to escape a lecture. But she got it when she came back, for Uncle Alec was still knitting his brows over the list of books, and sternly demanded, pointing to a tipsy-looking title staggering down the page, "Is that meant for pulverized bones, ma'am?" "No, sir, it's Paradise Lost." "Well, I'm glad to know it, for I began to think you were planning to study surgery or farming. And what is this, if you please? Babies' aprons is all I can make of it." Rose looked hard at the scrawl and presently announced with an air of superior wisdom, "Oh, that's Bacon's Essays. Miss Power did not teach anything so old-fashioned as writing, I see. Now, look at this memorandum Aunt Plenty gave me, and see what a handsome plain hand that is."
She went to a dame school and learnt a few useful things well,
That is better than a smattering of a half a dozen so-called higher branches, I take the liberty of thinking. Well, I'm sure I was considered a bright girl at school and learned everything I was taught. Luli and me were the first in all our classes and specially praised for our French and music and those sort of things, said Rose, rather offended at Uncle Alec's criticism. I dare say. But if your French grammar was no better than your English, I think the praise was not deserved, my dear. Why, Uncle, we did study English grammar, and I could parse beautifully. Miss Power used to have us up to show off when people came. I don't see but I talk as right as most girls. I dare say you do, but we are all too careless about our English. Now think a minute and tell me if these expressions are correct. Luli and me, those sort of things, and as right as most girls. Rose pulled her pet curl and put up her lip, but had to own that she was wrong and said meekly, after a pause which threatened to be sulky, I suppose I should have said Luli and I in that case, and that sort of things, and rightly, though correctly would have been a better word, I guess. Thank you. And if you will kindly drop I guess, I shall like my little Yankee all the better. Now see here, Rosie. I don't pretend to set myself up for a model in anything, and you may come down on my grammar, manners, or morals as often as you think I'm wrong, and I'll thank you. I've been knocking about the world for years and have got careless, but I want my girl to be what I call well-educated, even if she studies nothing but the 3 R's for a year to come. Let us be thorough, no matter how slowly we go.
He spoke so earnestly and looked so sorry to have ruffled her that Rose went and sat on the arm of his chair, saying, with a pretty air of penitence, I'm sorry I was cross, Uncle, when I ought to thank you for taking so much interest in me. I think you are right about being thorough, for I used to understand a great deal better when Papa taught me a few lessons than when Miss Power hurried me through so many. I declare my head used to be such a jumble of French and German, history and arithmetic, grammar and music. I used to feel sometimes as if it would split. I'm sure I don't wonder it ached. And she held on to it as if the mere memory of the jumble made it swim. Yet that is considered an excellent school, I find, and I dare say it would be if the benighted lady did not think it necessary to cram her pupils like Thanksgiving turkeys, instead of feeding them in a natural and wholesome way. It is the fault with most American schools, and the poor little heads will go on aching till we learn better. This was one of Dr. Alec's hobbies, and Rose was afraid he was off for a gallop, but he reined himself in and gave her thoughts a new turn by saying suddenly, as he pulled out a fat pocketbook, Uncle Mac has put all your affairs into my hands now, and here is your month's pocket money. You keep your own little accounts, I suppose? Thank you. Yes, Uncle Mac gave me an account book when I went to school, and I used to put down my expenses, but I couldn't make them go very well, for figures are the one thing I am not at all clever about, said Rose, rummaging in her desk for a dilapidated little book which she was ashamed to show when she found it.
Well, as figures are rather important things to most of us, and you may have a good many accounts to keep someday, wouldn't it be wise to begin at once and learn to manage your pennies before the pounds come to perplex you? I thought you would do all that fussy part and take care of the pounds, as you call them. Need I worry about it? I do hate sums so. I shall take care of things till you are of age, but I mean that you shall know how your property is managed and do as much of it as you can by and by. Then you won't be dependent on the honesty of other people. Gracious me, as if I wouldn't trust you with millions of billions if I had them, cried Rose, scandalized at the mere suggestion.
But I might be tempted. Guardians are sometimes, so you'd better keep your eye on me. And in order to do that, you must learn all about these affairs," answered Dr. Alec, as he made an entry in his own very neat account book. Rose peeped over his shoulder at it, and then turned to the arithmetical puzzle in her hand with a sigh of despair. "Uncle, when you add up your expenses, do you ever find you have got more money than you had in the beginning?" "No. I usually find that I have a good deal less than I had in the beginning. Are you troubled in the peculiar way you mention?" "Yes, it's very curious, but I never can make things come out square." "Perhaps I can help you," began Uncle Alec in the most respectful tone. "I think you had better, for if I have to keep accounts, I may as well begin in the right way. But please don't laugh. I know I'm very stupid, and my book is a disgrace, but I never could get it straight." And with great trepidation, Rose gave up her funny little accounts.
It really was good in Dr. Alec not to laugh, and Rose felt deeply grateful when he said in a mildly suggestive tone, "The dollars and cents seem to be rather mixed. Perhaps if I just straightened them out a bit, we should find things all right. Please do, and then show me on a fresh leaf how to make mine look nice and shipshape as yours do." As Rose stood by him watching the ease with which he quickly brought order out of chaos, she privately resolved to hunt up her old arithmetic and perfect herself in the 4 first rules, with a good tug at fractions, before she read any more fairy tales. "Am I a rich girl, Uncle?" she asked suddenly, as he was copying a column of figures. "Rather a poor one, I should say, since you had to borrow in 9 pence. That was your fault because you forgot my pocket money. But really, shall I be rich by and by?" "I am afraid you will." "Why afraid, Uncle?" "Too much money is a bad thing." "But I can give it away, you know. That is always the pleasantest part of having it, I think." "I'm glad you feel so, for you can do much good with your fortune if you know how to use it well. You shall teach me, and when I am a woman, we will set up a school where nothing but the 3 R's shall be taught, and all the children live on oatmeal, and the girls have waists a yard round," said Rose with a sudden saucy smile dimpling her cheeks. "You are an impertinent little baggage to turn on me in that way right in the midst of my first attempt at teaching. Never mind, I'll have an extra bitter dose for you next time, miss. I knew you wanted to laugh, so I gave you a chance. Now, I will be good master and do my lesson nicely."
So Dr. Alec had his laugh, and then Rose sat down and took a lesson in accounts, which she never forgot. "Now come and read aloud to me. My eyes are tired, and it is pleasant to sit here by the fire while the rain pours outside and Aunt Jane lectures upstairs," said Uncle Alec, when last month's accounts had been put in good order and a fresh page neatly begun. Rose liked to read aloud and gladly gave him the chapter in Nicholas Nickleby, where the Miss Kenwigses take their French lesson. She did her very best, feeling that she was being criticized and hoping that she might not be found wanting in this as in other things. "Shall I go on, sir?" she asked very meekly when the chapter ended. "If you are not tired, dear, it is a pleasure to hear you, for you read remarkably well," was the answer that filled her heart with pride and pleasure. "Do you really think so, Uncle? I'm so glad. Papa taught me, and I read for hours to him, but I thought perhaps he liked it because he was fond of me. So am I, but you really do read unusually well, and I'm very glad of it, for it is a rare accomplishment, and one I value highly. Come here in this cozy low chair. The light is better, and I can pull these curls if you go too fast. I see you are going to be a great comfort as well as a great credit to your old Uncle Rosie." And Dr. Alec drew her close beside him with such a fatherly look and tone that she felt it would be very easy to love and obey him, since he knew how to mix praise and blame so pleasantly together. Another chapter was just finished when the sound of a carriage warned them that Aunt Jane was about to depart. Before they could go to meet her, however, she appeared in the doorway, looking like an unusually tall mummy in her waterproof, with her glasses shining like cat's eyes from the depths of the hood. "Just as I thought, petting that child to death and letting her sit up late reading trash. I do hope you feel the weight of the responsibility you have taken upon yourself, Alec," she said, with a certain grim sort of satisfaction at seeing things go wrong. "I think I have a very realizing sense of it, Sister Jane," answered Dr. Alec, with a comical shrug of the shoulders and the glance at Rose's bright face. "It is sad to see a great girl wasting these precious hours so. Now, my boys have studied all day, and Mac is still at his books, I've no doubt. Well, you have not had a lesson since you came, I suspect." "I've had 5 today, ma'am," was Rose's very unexpected answer. "I'm glad to hear it. And what were they, pray?" Rose looked very demure as she replied, "Navigation, geography, grammar, arithmetic, and keeping my temper. Queer lessons, I fancy. And what have you learned from this remarkable mixture, I should like to know?" A naughty sparkle came into Rose's eyes as she answered with a droll look at her uncle. "I can't tell you all, ma'am, but I have collected some useful information about China, which you may like, especially the teas. The best are Lapsing Souchong, Assam Pekoe, Rare Unquo, Flowery Pekoe, Hauqua's Mixture, Scented Caper, Padral Tea, Black Kongao, and Green Twenky. Shanghai is on the Wusong River. Hong Kong means Island of Sweet Waters. Singapore is Lion's Town. Chops are the boats they live in, and they drink tea out of little saucers.
Principal productions are porcelain, tea, cinnamon, shawls, tin, tamarinds, and opium. They have beautiful temples and queer gods, and in Canton is the dwelling of the holy pigs, 14 of them, very big, and all blind. The effect of this remarkable burst was immense, especially the fact last mentioned. It entirely took the wind out of Aunt Jane's sails. It was so sudden, so varied and unexpected that she had not a word to say. The glasses remained fixed full upon Rose for a moment, and then, with a hasty, "Oh, indeed," the excellent lady bundled into her carriage and drove away, somewhat bewildered and very much disturbed. She would have been more so if she had seen her reprehensible brother-in-law dancing a triumphal polka down the hall with Rose in honor of having silenced the enemy's battery for once.
"Why do you keep smiling to yourself, Phoebe?" asked Rose as they were working together one morning, for Dr. Alec considered housework the best sort of gymnastics for girls, so Rose took lessons of Phoebe in sweeping, dusting, and bed-making. "I was thinking about a nice little secret I know and couldn't help smiling. Shall I know it sometime? Guess you will. Shall I like it? Oh, won't you, though? Will it happen soon? Sometime this week? I know what it is. The boys are going to have fireworks on the 4th and have got some surprise for me, haven't they? That's telling."
Well, I can wait. Only tell me one thing. Is Uncle in it?
"Of course he is. There's never any fun without him."
Then it's all right and sure to be nice. Rose went out on the balcony to shake the rugs, and having given them a vigorous beating, hung them on the balustrade to air while she took a look at her plants. Several tall vases and jars stood there, and a month of June sun and rain had worked wonders with the seeds and slips she had planted. Morning glories and nasturtiums ran all over the bars, making haste to bloom. Scarlet beans and honeysuckles were climbing up from below to meet their pretty neighbors, and the woodbine was hanging its green festoons wherever it could cling. The waters of the bay were dancing in the sunshine, a fresh wind stirred the chestnut trees with a pleasant sound, and the garden below was full of roses, butterflies, and bees. A great chirping and twittering went on among the birds, busy with their summer housekeeping, and, far away,
The white-winged gulls were dipping and diving in the sea, where ships, like larger birds, went sailing to and fro. "Oh, Phoebe, it's such a lovely day. I do wish your fine secret was going to happen right away. I feel just like having a good time, don't you?" said Rose, waving her arms as if she was going to fly. "I often feel that way, but I have to wait for my good times and don't stop working to wish for 'em. There. Now you can finish as soon as the dust settles. I must go do my stairs." And Phoebe trudged away with the broom, singing as she went. Rose leaned where she was and fell to thinking how many good times she had had lately. For the gardening had prospered finely, and she was learning to swim and row, and there were drives and walks and quiet hours of reading and talk with Uncle Alec, and best of all, the old pain and ennui seldom troubled her now. She could work and play all day, sleep sweetly all night, and enjoy life with the zest of a healthy, happy child. She was far from being as strong and hearty as Phoebe, but she was getting on. The once pale cheeks had color in them now. The hands were growing plump and brown, and the belt was not much too loose. No one talked to her about her health, and she forgot that she had no constitution. She took no medicine but Dr. Alec's 3 great remedies, and they seemed to suit her excellently. Aunt Plenty said it was the pills, but as no second batch had ever followed the first, I think the old lady was mistaken. Rose looked worthy of her name as she stood smiling to herself over a happier secret than any Phoebe had, a secret which she did not know herself till she found out, some years later, the magic of good health. "Look only," said the brownie, "at the pretty gown of blue, at the kerchief pinned about her head, and at her little shoe," said a voice from below as a great cabbage rose came flying against her cheek. "What is the princess dreaming about up there in her hanging garden?" added Dr. Alec as she flung back a morning glory. "I was wishing I could do something pleasant this fine day, something very new and interesting, for the wind makes me feel frisky and gay." "Suppose we take a pull over to the island. I intended to go this afternoon, but if you feel more like it now, we can be off at once." I do. I'll come in 15 minutes, Uncle. I must just scrabble my room to rights, for Phoebe has got a great deal to do." Rose caught up the rugs and vanished as she spoke, while Dr. Alec went in, saying to himself with an indulgent smile, "It may upset things a trifle, but half a child's pleasure consists in having their fun when they want it." Never did a duster flap more briskly than the one Rose used that day, and never was a room scrabbled to rights in such haste as hers. Tables and chairs flew into their places as if alive, curtains shook as if a gale was blowing, china rattled and small articles tumbled about as if a young earthquake was playing with them. The boating suit went on in a twinkling, and Rose was off with a hop and a skip, little dreaming how many hours it would be before she saw her pretty room again. Uncle Alec was putting a large basket into the boat when she arrived, and before they were off, Phoebe came running down with a queer, knobby bundle done up in a waterproof. "We can't eat half that luncheon, and I know we shall not need so many wraps. I wouldn't lumber the boat up so," said Rose, who still had secret scares when on the water. "Couldn't you make a smaller parcel, Phoebe?" asked Dr. Alec, eyeing the bundle suspiciously. "No, sir, not in such a hurry." And Phoebe laughed as she gave a particularly large knob a good poke. "Well, it will do for ballast. Don't forget the note to Mrs. Jessie, I beg of you." "No, sir, I'll send it right off." And Phoebe ran up the bank as if she had wings to her feet. "We'll take a look at the lighthouse first, for you have not been there yet, and it is worth seeing. By the time we have done that, it will be pretty warm, and we will have lunch under the trees on the island. Rose was ready for anything and enjoyed her visit to the lighthouse on the point very much.
Especially climbing up the narrow stairs and going inside the great lantern. They made a long stay, for Dr. Alec seemed in no hurry to go and kept looking through his spyglass as if he expected to discover something remarkable on sea or land. It was past 12 before they reached the island, and Rose was ready for her lunch long before she got it. "Now this is lovely. I do wish the boys were here. Won't it be nice to have them with us all their vacation? Why, it begins today, doesn't it? Oh, I wish I'd remembered it sooner, and perhaps they would have come with us," she said, as they lay luxuriously eating sandwiches under the old apple tree. "So we might. Next time we won't be in such a hurry. I expect the Rads'll take our heads off when they find us out," answered Dr. Alec, placidly drinking cold tea. "Uncle, I smell a frying sort of a smell," Rose said, pausing suddenly as she was putting away the remains of the lunch half an hour later. "So do I. It is fish, I think." For a moment, they both sat with their noses in the air, sniffing like hounds. Then Dr. Alec sprang up, saying with great decision, "Now this won't do. No one is permitted on this island without asking leave. I must see who dares to fry fish on my private property." Taking the basket on one arm and the bundle on the other, he strode away towards the traitorous smell, looking as fierce as a lion, while Rose marched behind under her umbrella. "We are Robinson Crusoe and his man Friday, going to see if the savages have come," she said presently, for her fancy was full of the dear old stories that all children love so well. "And there they are! 2 tents and 2 boats as I live. These rascals mean to enjoy themselves, that's evident."
"There ought to be more boats and no tents. I wonder where the prisoners are. There are traces of them," and Dr. Alec pointed to the heads and tails of fishes strewn on the grass. "And there are more," said Rose, laughing as she pointed to a scour heap of what looked like lobsters. "The savages are probably eating their victims now. Don't you hear the knives rattle in that tent? We ought to creep up and peep. Crusoe was cautious, you know, and Friday scared out of his wits," added Rose, still keeping up the joke. "But this Crusoe is going to pounce upon them, regardless of consequences. If I am killed and eaten, you seize the basket and run for the boat. There are provisions enough for your voyage home." With that, Uncle Alec slipped round to the front of the tent and, casting in the big bundle like a bombshell, roared out in a voice of thunder, "Pirates, surrender!" A crash, a shout, a laugh, and out came the savages brandishing knives and forks, chicken bones and tin mugs, and all fell upon the intruder, pommeling him unmercifully as they cried, "You came too soon! We are not half ready! You've spoiled it all! Where is Rose?" "Here I am," answered a half-stifled voice, and Rose was discovered sitting on the pile of red flannel bathing clothes, which she had mistaken for lobsters, and where she had fallen in a fit of merriment when she discovered that the cannibals were her merry cousins. "You good-for-nothing boys! You are always bursting out upon me in some ridiculous way, and I always get taken in because I'm not used to such pranks. Uncle is as bad as the rest, and it's great fun," she said, as the lads came round her, half scolding, half welcoming, and wholly enjoying the double surprise.
"You are not to come till afternoon, and Mama was to be here to receive you. Everything is in a mess now except your tent. We got that in order the first thing, and you can sit there and see us work," said Archie, doing the honors as usual. Rose felt it in her bones, as Dolly says, that something was in the wind and wanted to be off at once. "So I let her come, and should have kept her away an hour longer if your fish had not betrayed you," explained Uncle Alec, subsiding from a ferocious Crusoe into his good-natured self again. "As this seat is rather damp, I think I'll rise," said Rose as the excitement lessened a little.
Several fishy hands helped her up, and Charlie said, as he scattered the scarlet garments over the grass with an oar, "We had a jolly good swim before dinner, and I told the brats to spread these to dry. Hope you brought your things, Rose, for you belong to the lobsters, you know, and we can have no end of fun teaching you to dive and float and tread water." "I didn't bring anything," began Rose, but was interrupted by the brats, otherwise Will and Geordie, who appeared bearing the big bundle, so much demoralized by its fall that a red flannel tunic trailed out at one end and a little blue dressing gown at the other, while the knobs proved to be a toilet case, rubbers, and a silver mug. "Oh, that's sly Phoebe. This was the secret, and she bundled up those things after I went down to the boat," cried Rose with sparkling eyes. "Guess something is smashed inside, for a bit of glass fell out," observed Will, as they deposited the bundle at her feet. "Catch a girl going anywhere without a looking-glass. We haven't got one among the whole lot of us," added Mac with masculine scorn.
"Dandy has. I caught him touching up his wig behind the trees after our swim," cut in Geordie, wagging a derisive finger at Steve, who promptly silenced him by a smart rap on the head with the drumstick he'd just polished off. "Come, come, you lazy lubbers, fall to work, or we shall not be ready for Mamma. Take Rose's things to her tent and tell her all about it, Prince. Mac and Steve, you cut away and bring up the rest of the straw. And you smell chaps, clear off the table if you have stuffed all you can. Please, Uncle, I'd like your advice about the boundary lines and the best place for the kitchen." Everyone obeyed the chief, and Rose was escorted to her tent by Charlie, who devoted himself to her service. She was charmed with her quarters, and still more so with the program which he unfolded before her as they worked. "We always camp out somewhere in vacation, and this year we thought we'd try the island. It is handy, and our fireworks will show off well from here." "Shall we stay over the 4th? 3 whole days? Oh me, what a frolic it will be!" "Bless your heart, we often camp for a week, we big fellows. But this year the small chaps wanted to come, so we let them. We have great larks, as you'll see, for we have a cave and play Captain Kidd and have shipwrecks and races and all sorts of games. Arch and I are rather past that kind of thing now, but we do it to please the children," added Charlie with a sudden recollection of his 16 years. "I had no idea boys had such good times. Their plays never seemed a bit interesting before. But I suppose that was because I never knew any boys very well, or perhaps you were unusually nice ones," observed Rose with an artless air of appreciation that was very flattering.
"We are a pretty clever set, I fancy, but we have a good many advantages, you see. They're a tribe of us to begin with. Then our family has been here for ages, and we have plenty of spondulics, so we can rather lord it over the other fellows and do as we like. There, ma'am, you can hang your smashed glass on that nail and do up your back hair as fine as you please. You can have a blue blanket or a red one, and a straw pillow or an air cushion for your head, whichever you like. You can trim up to any extent and be as free and easy as squaws in a wigwam, for this corner is set apart for you ladies, and we never cross the line Uncle is drawing until we ask leave. Anything more I can do for you, cousin?" "No, thank you. I think I'll leave the rest till Auntie comes and go and help you somewhere else, if I may." "Yes, indeed. Come on and see to the kitchen. Can you cook?" asked Charlie, as he led the way to the rocky nook where Archie was putting up a sailcloth awning. "I can make tea and toast bread." "Well, we'll show you how to fry fish and make chowder. Now, you just set these pots and pans round tastefully and sort of tidy up a bit, for Aunt Jessie insists on doing some of the work, and I want it to be decent here." By 4 o'clock, the camp was in order, and the weary workers settled down on Lookout Rock to watch for Mrs. Jessie and Jamie, who was never far from Mama's apron string. They looked like a flock of bluebirds, all being in sailor rig, with blue ribbon enough flying from the 7 hats to have set up a milliner. Very tuneful bluebirds they were, too, for all the lads sang, and the echo of their happy voices reached Mrs. Jessie long before she saw them.
The moment the boat hove in sight, up went the island flag, and the Blue Jackets cheered lustily, as they did on every possible occasion, like true young Americans. This welcome was answered by the flapping of a handkerchief and the shrill "Rah, rah, rah" of the one small tar who stood in the stern waving his hat manfully, while a maternal hand clutched him firmly in the rear. Cleopatra, landing from her golden galley, never received a heartier greeting than "Little Mum," as she was borne to her tent by the young folk, for love of whom she smilingly resigned herself to 3 days of discomfort. While Jamie immediately attached himself to Rose, assuring her of his protection from the manifold perils which might assail them. Taught by long experience that boys are always hungry, Aunt Jessie soon proposed supper and proceeded to get it, enveloped in an immense apron with an old hat of Archie's stuck atop of her cap. Rose helped and tried to be as handy as Phoebe, though the peculiar style of table she had to set made it no easy task. It was accomplished at last, and a very happy party lay about under the trees, eating and drinking out of anyone's plate and cup, and quite untroubled by the frequent appearance of ants and spiders in places which these interesting insects are not expected to adorn. "I never thought I should like to wash dishes, but I do," said Rose as she sat in a boat after supper, lazily rinsing plates in the sea and rocking luxuriously as she wiped them. "Mum is mighty particular. We just give 'em a scrub with sand and dust 'em off with a bit of paper. It's much the best way, I think," replied Geordie, who reposed in another boat alongside. "How Peeby would like this! I wonder Uncle did not have her come."
I believe he tried to, but Dolly was as cross as 2 sticks and said she couldn't spare her. I'm sorry, for we all liked the Phoebe bird, and she'd chirp like a good one out here, wouldn't she? She ought to have a holiday like the rest of us. It's too bad to leave her out. This thought came back to Rose several times that evening, for Phoebe would have added much to the little concert they had in the moonlight, would have enjoyed the stories told, been quick at guessing the conundrums, and laughed with all her heart at the fun. The merry going to bed would have been the best of all, for Rose wanted someone to cuddle under the blue blanket with her, there to whisper and giggle and tell secrets, as girls delight to do. Long after the rest were asleep, Rose lay wide awake, excited by the novelty of all about her, and a thought that had come into her mind. Far away she heard a city clock strike 12. A large star like a mild eye peeped in at the opening of the tent, and the soft plash of the waves seemed calling her to come out. Aunt Jessie lay fast asleep, with Jamie rolled up like a kitten at her feet, and neither stirred as Rose in her wrapper crept out to see how the world looked at midnight. She found it very lovely, and sat down on a cracker keg to enjoy it with the heart full of the innocent sentiment of her years. Fortunately, Dr. Alec saw her before she had time to catch cold, for, coming out to tie back the door flap of his tent for more air, he beheld the small figure perched in the moonlight. Having no fear of ghosts, he quietly approached, and seeing that she was wide awake, said, with a hand on her shining hair, "What is my girl doing here?" "Having a good time," answered Rose, not at all startled.
I wonder what she was thinking about with such a sober look. The story you told of the brave sailor who gave up his place on the raft to the woman and the last drop of water to the poor baby. People who make sacrifices are very much loved and admired, aren't they? She asked, earnestly. If the sacrifice is a true one, but many of the bravest never are known and get no praise. That does not lessen their beauty, though perhaps it makes them harder, for we all like sympathy. And Dr. Alec sighed a patient sort of sigh. I suppose you have made a great many. Would you mind telling me one of them? Asked Rose, arrested by the sigh. My last was to give up smoking, was the very unromantic answer to her pensive question. Why did you?
Bad example for the boys. "That was very good of you, Uncle." "Was it hard?" "I'm ashamed to say it was. But as a wise old fellow once said, it is necessary to do right. It is not necessary to be happy." Rose pondered over the saying as if it pleased her, and then said with a clear, bright look, "A real sacrifice is giving up something you want or enjoy very much, isn't it?" "Yes. Doing it one's own self because one loves another person very much and wants her to be happy." "Yes. And doing it pleasantly and being glad about it and not minding the praise if it doesn't come." "Yes, dear. That is the true spirit of self-sacrifice. You seem to understand it, and I dare say you will have many chances in your life to try the real thing. I hope they won't be very hard ones."
"I think they will," began Rose, and there stopped short. "Well, make one now and go to sleep, or my girl will be ill tomorrow, and then the aunts will say camping out was bad for her." "I'll go. Good night." And throwing him a kiss, the little ghost vanished, leaving Uncle Alec to pace the shore and think about some of the unsuspected sacrifices that had made him what he was.
Chapter 10. Rose's Sacrifice. There certainly were larks on Campbell's Island next day, as Charlie had foretold, and Rose took her part in them like one intent on enjoying every minute to the utmost. There was a merry breakfast, a successful fishing expedition, and then the lobsters came out in full force, for even Aunt Jessie appeared in red flannel. There was nothing Uncle Alec could not do in the water, and the boys tried their best to equal him in strength and skill. So there was a great diving and ducking, for everyone was bent on distinguishing himself. Rose swam out far beyond her depth, with Uncle to float her back. Aunt Jessie splashed placidly in the shallow pools, with Jamie paddling nearby like a little whale beside its mother, while the lads careered about, looking like a flock of distracted flamingos and acting like the famous dancing party in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Nothing but chowder would have lured them from their gambols in the briny deep. That time-honored dish demanded the concentrated action of several mighty minds, so the water babies came ashore and fell to cooking. It is unnecessary to say that when done, it was the most remarkable chowder ever cooked, and the quantity eaten would have amazed the world if the secret had been divulged. After this exertion, a siesta was considered the thing, and people lay about in tents or out as they pleased, the boys looking like warriors slumbering where they fell. The elders had just settled to a comfortable nap when the youngsters rose refreshed and ready for further exploits. A hint sent them all off to the cave, and there they discovered bows and arrows, battle clubs, old swords, and various relics of an interesting nature. Perched upon a commanding rock, with Jamie to "splain" things to her, Rose beheld a series of stirring scenes enacted with great vigor and historical accuracy by her gifted relatives. Captain Cook was murdered by the natives of Ohio in the most thrilling manner. Captain Kidd buried untold wealth in the chowder kettle at the dead of night, and shot both the trusting villains who shared the secret of the hiding place. Sinbad came ashore there and had manifold adventures, and numberless wrecks bestrewed the sands. Rose considered them by far the most exciting dramas she had ever witnessed, and when the performance closed with a grand ballet of Fiji Islanders whose barbaric yells alarmed the gulls, she had no words in which to express her gratification. Another swim at sunset. Another merry evening on the rocks, watching the lighted steamers pass seaward and the pleasure boats come into port, ended the second day of the camping out, and sent everyone to bed early that they might be ready for the festivities of the morrow. "Archie, didn't I hear Uncle ask you to row home in the morning for fresh milk and things?" "Yes, why?" "Please, may I go too? I have something of great importance to arrange. You know, I was carried off in a hurry."
Rose said in a confidential whisper as she was bidding her cousins good night.
I'm willing, and I guess Charlie won't mind. Thank you. Be sure you stand by me when I ask leave in the morning, and don't say anything till then except to Charlie. Promise, urged Rose, so eagerly that Archie struck an attitude and cried dramatically, By yonder moon I swear. Hush, it's all right, go along. And Rose departed as if satisfied. She's a queer little thing, isn't she, Prince? Rather a nice little thing, I think. I'm quite fond of her. Rose's quick ears caught both remarks, and she retired to her tent, saying to herself with sleepy dignity, Little thing indeed! Those boys talk as if I was a baby. They will treat me with more respect after tomorrow, I guess. Archie did stand by her in the morning, and her request was readily granted, as the lads were coming directly back. Off they went, and Rose waved her hand to the islanders with a somewhat pensive air, for an heroic purpose glowed within her, and the spirit of self-sacrifice was about to be illustrated in a new and touching manner. While the boys got the milk, Rose ran to Phoebe, ordered her to leave her dishes, to put on her hat, and take a note back to Uncle Alec, which would explain this somewhat mysterious performance. Phoebe obeyed, and when she went to the boat, Rose accompanied her, telling the boys she was not ready to go yet, but they could, some of them, come for her when she hung a white signal on her balcony. But why not come now? What are you about, miss? Uncle won't like it, protested Charlie in great amazement. Just do as I tell you, little boy. Uncle will understand and explain. Obey as Phoebe does, and ask no questions. I can have secrets as well as other people. And Rose walked off with an air of lofty independence that impressed her friends immensely. It's some plot between Uncle and herself, so we won't meddle. All right, Phoebe? Pull away, Prince. And off they went to be received with much surprise by the islanders. This was the note Phoebe bore. Dear Uncle, I am going to take Phoebe's place today and let her have all the fun she can. Please don't mind what she says, but keep her and tell the boys to be very good to her for my sake. Don't think it is easy to do this. It is very hard to give up the best day of all, but I feel so selfish to have all the pleasure and Phoebe none that I wish to make the sacrifice. Do let me, and don't laugh at it. I truly do not wish to be praised, and I truly want to do it. Love to all, from Rose. Bless the little dear. What a generous heart she has. Shall we go after her, Jessie, or let her have her way? Said Dr. Alec, after the first mingled amusement and astonishment had subsided. Let her alone, and don't spoil her little sacrifice. She means it, I know, and the best way in which we can show our respect for her effort is to give Phoebe a pleasant day. I'm sure she has earned it. And Mrs. Jessie made a sign to the boys to suppress their disappointment and exert themselves to please Rose's guest. Phoebe was with difficulty kept from going straight home and declared that she should not enjoy herself one bit without Miss Rose. She won't hold out all day, and we shall see her paddling back before noon. I'll wager anything, said Charlie, and the rest so strongly inclined to his opinion that they resigned themselves to the loss of the little queen of the revels, sure that it would be only a temporary one. And Rose walked off with an air of lofty independence that impressed her friends immensely. It's some plot between Uncle and herself, so we won't meddle. All right, Phoebe? Pull away, Prince. And off they went to be received with much surprise by the islanders. This was the note Phoebe bore. Dear Uncle, I am going to take Phoebe's place today and let her have all the fun she can. Please don't mind what she says, but keep her and tell the boys to be very good to her for my sake. Don't think it is easy to do this. It is very hard to give up the best day of all, but I feel so selfish to have all the pleasure and Phoebe none that I wish to make the sacrifice. Do let me, and don't laugh at it. I truly do not wish to be praised, and I truly want to do it.
Love to all from Rose. Bless the little dear. What a generous heart she has. Shall we go after her, Jessie, or let her have her way? Said Dr. Alec, after the first mingled amusement and astonishment had subsided. Let her alone, and don't spoil her little sacrifice. She means it, I know, and the best way in which we can show our respect for her effort is to give Phoebe a pleasant day. I'm sure she has earned it. And Mrs. Jessie made a sign to the boys to suppress their disappointment and exert themselves to please Rose's guest. Phoebe was with difficulty kept from going straight home and declared that she should not enjoy herself one bit without Miss Rose. She won't hold out all day, and we shall see her paddling back before noon. I'll wager anything, said Charlie, and the rest so strongly inclined to his opinion that they resigned themselves to the loss of the little queen of the revels, sure that it would be only a temporary one.
Cannon booming, crackers popping, and everyone making ready for a holiday and go to washing cups, while Dolly grumbled and the aunts lamented. It was very hard to see the day go by, knowing how gay each hour must have been across the water, and how a word from her would take her where she longed to be with all her heart. But it was hardest of all when evening came, and Aunt Peace was asleep, Aunt Plenty seeing a gossip in the parlor, Dolly established in the porch to enjoy the show, and nothing left for the little maid to do but sit alone in her balcony and watch the gay rockets whiz up from island, hill, and city, while bands played and boats laden with happy people went to and fro in the fitful light. Then it must be confessed that a tear or two dimmed the blue eyes, and once, when a very brilliant display illuminated the island for a moment, and she fancied she saw the tents, the curly head went down in the railing, and a wide-awake nasturtium heard a little whisper, "I hope someone wishes I was there." The tears were all gone, however, and she was watching the hill and island answer each other with what Jamie called whizzers, whirligigs, and busters, and smiling as she thought how hard the boys must be working to keep up such a steady fire. When Uncle Mac came walking in upon her, saying hurriedly, "Come, child, put on your tippet, pelisse, or whatever you call it, and run off with me. I came to get Phoebe, but Aunt says she is gone, so I want you. I've got fun down in the boat, and I want you to go with us and see my fireworks. Got them up for you, and you mustn't miss them, or I shall be disappointed." "But, Uncle," began Rose, feeling as if she ought to refuse even a glimpse of bliss. "Perhaps—" "I know, my dear, I know. Aunt told me. But no one needs you now so much as I do, and I insist on your coming," said Uncle Mac, who seemed in a great hurry to be off, yet was unusually kind.
So Rose went and found the little Chinaman with a funny lantern waiting to help her in and convulse her with laughter, trying to express his emotions in pidgin English. The city clocks were striking 9 as they got out into the bay, and the island fireworks seemed to be over, for no rocket answered the last Roman candle that shone on the anthill. "Ours are done, I see, but they are going up all round the city, and how pretty they are," said Rose, folding her mantle about her and surveying the scene with pensive interest. "Hope my fellows have not gotten into trouble up there," muttered Uncle Mac, adding with a satisfied chuckle as a spark shone out, "No, there it goes. Look, Rosie, and see how you like this one. It was ordered especially in honor of your coming." Rose looked with all her eyes and saw the spark grow into the likeness of a golden vase, then green leaves came out, and then a crimson flower glowing on the darkness with a splendid luster. "Is it a rose, Uncle?" she asked, clasping her hands with delight as she recognized the handsome flower. "Of course it is. Look again and guess what those are," answered Uncle Mac, chuckling and enjoying it all like a boy. A wreath of what looked at first like purple brooms appeared below the vase, but Rose guessed what they were meant for and stood straight up, holding by his shoulder and crying excitedly, "Thistles, Uncle! Scotch thistles! There are 7 of them, 1 for each boy! Oh, what a joke!" And she laughed so that she plumped into the bottom of the boat and stayed there till the brilliant spectacle was quite gone. "That was rather a neat thing, I flatter myself," said Uncle Mac, in high glee at the success of his illumination. "Now, shall I leave you on the island or take you home again, my good little girl?" he added, lifting her up with such a tone of approbation in his voice that Rose kissed him on the spot.
Home, please, Uncle, and I thank you very, very much for the beautiful firework you got up for me. I'm so glad I saw it, and I know I shall dream about it," answered Rose steadily, though a wistful glance went toward the island, now so near that she could smell powder and see shadowy figures flitting about. Home they went, and Rose fell asleep, saying to herself, "It was harder than I thought, but I'm glad I did it, and I truly don't want any reward but Phoebe's pleasure."
Chapter 11. Poor Mac. Rose's sacrifice was a failure in one respect, for though the elders loved her the better for it, and showed that they did, the boys were not inspired with the sudden respect which she had hoped for. In fact, her feelings were much hurt by overhearing Archie say that he couldn't see any sense in it, and the prince added another blow by pronouncing her the queerest chicken ever seen. It is apt to be so, and it is hard to bear, for though we do not want trumpets blown, we do like to have our little virtues appreciated and cannot help feeling disappointed if they are not. A time soon came, however, when Rose, quite unconsciously, won not only the respect of her cousins, but their gratitude and affection likewise. Soon after the island episode, Mac had a sunstroke and was very ill for some time. It was so sudden that everyone was startled, and for some days the boy's life was in danger. He pulled through, however, and then just as the family were rejoicing, a new trouble appeared which cast a gloom over them all. Poor Mac's eyes gave out, and well they might, for he had abused them, and never being very strong, they suffered doubly now. No one dared to tell him the dark predictions of the great oculist who came to look at them.
And the boy tried to be patient, thinking that a few weeks of rest would repair the overwork of several years. He was forbidden to look at a book, and as that was the one thing he most delighted in, it was a terrible affliction to the worm. Everyone was very ready to read to him, and at first the lads contended for this honor. But as week after week went by, and Mac was still condemned to idleness and a darkened room, their zeal abated, and one after the other fell off. It was hard for the active fellows, right in the midst of their vacation, and nobody blamed them when they contented themselves with brief calls, running of errands, and warm expressions of sympathy. The elders did their best, but Uncle Mac was a busy man. Aunt Jane's reading was of a funereal sort, impossible to listen to long, and the other aunties were all absorbed in their own cares, though they supplied the boy with every delicacy they could invent. Uncle Alec was a host in himself, but he could not give all his time to the invalid. And if it had not been for Rose, the afflicted worm would have fared ill. Her pleasant voice suited him, her patience was unfailing, her time of no apparent value, and her eager goodwill was very comforting. The womanly power of self-devotion was strong in the child, and she remained faithfully at her post when all the rest dropped away. Hour after hour she sat in the dusky room with one ray of light on her book, reading to the boy who lay with shaded eyes, silently enjoying the only pleasure that lightened the weary days. Sometimes he was peevish and hard to please. Sometimes he growled because his reader could not manage the dry books he wished to hear, and sometimes he was so despondent that her heart ached to see him. Through all these trials, Rose persevered, using all her little arts to please him.
When he fretted, she was patient. When he growled, she plowed bravely through the hard pages, not dry to her in one sense, for quiet tears dropped on them now and then. And when Mac fell into a despairing mood, she comforted him with every hopeful word she dared to offer. He said little, but she knew he was grateful, for she suited him better than anyone else. If she was late, he was impatient. When she had to go, he seemed forlorn.
and when the tired head ached worst, she could always soothe him to sleep, crooning the old songs her father used to love. "I don't know what I should do without that child," Aunt Jane often said. "She's worth all those racketing fellows put together," Mac would add, fumbling about to discover if the little chair was ready for her coming. That was the sort of reward Rose liked, the thanks that cheered her, and whenever she grew very tired, one look at the green shade, the curly head so restless on the pillow, and the poor groping hands touched her tender heart and put new spirit into the weary voice. She did not know how much she was learning, both from the books she read and the daily sacrifices she made. Stories and poetry were her delight, but Mac did not care for them, and since his favorite Greeks and Romans were forbidden, he satisfied himself with travels, biographies, and the history of great inventions or discoveries. Rose despised this taste at first, but soon got interested in Livingstone's adventures, Hobson's stirring life in India, and the brave trials and triumphs of Watt and Arkwright, Fulton, and Palissy the potter. The true, strong books helped the dreamy girl. Her faithful service and sweet patience touched and won the boy. And long afterward, both learned to see how useful those seemingly hard and weary hours had been to them.
One bright morning, as Rose sat down to begin a fat volume entitled History of the French Revolution, expecting to come to great grief over the long names, Mac, who was lumbering about the room like a blind bear, stopped her by asking abruptly, "What day of the month is it?" "The 7th of August, I believe." "More than half my vacation gone, and I've only had a week of it. I call that hard." And he groaned dismally. "So it is, but there is more to come, and you may be able to enjoy that." "May be able? I will be able. Does that old noodle think I'm going to stay stived up here much longer?" "I guess he does, unless your eyes get on faster than they have yet." "Has he said anything more lately?" "I haven't seen him, you know. Shall I begin? This looks rather nice." "Read away. It's all one to me." And Mac cast himself down upon the old lounge, where his heavy head felt easiest. Rose began with great spirit and kept on gallantly for a couple of chapters, getting over the unpronounceable names with unexpected success, she thought, for her listener did not correct her once, and lay so still she fancied he was deeply interested. All of a sudden, she was arrested in the middle of a fine paragraph by Mac, who sat bolt upright, brought both feet down with a thump, and said in a rough, excited tone, "Stop. I don't hear a word, and you may as well save your breath to answer my question." "What is it?" Rose asked, looking uneasy, for she had something on her mind, and feared that he suspected what it was. His next words proved that she was right. "Now look here, I want to know something, and you've got to tell me."
"Please, don't," began Rose beseechingly. "You must, or I'll pull off the shade and stare at the sun as hard as ever I can stare. Come now." And he half rose, as if ready to execute the threat. "I will. Oh, I will tell if I know. But don't be reckless and do anything so crazy as that," cried Rose in great distress. "Very well. Then listen, and don't dodge as everyone else does. Didn't the doctor think my eyes worse the last time he came? Mother won't say, but you shall." "I believe he did," faltered Rose. "I thought so. Did he say I should be able to go to school when it begins?" "No, Mac," very low. "Ah." That was all, but Rose saw her cousin set his lips together and take a long breath, as if she had hit him hard. He bore the disappointment bravely, however, and asked quite steadily in a minute, "How soon does he think I can study again?" It was so hard to answer that, yet Rose knew she must, for Aunt Jane had declared she could not do it, and Uncle Mac had begged her to break the truth to the poor lad. "Not for a good many months." "How many?" he asked with a pathetic sort of gruffness.
A year, perhaps. A whole year? Why, I expected to be ready for college by that time. And pushing up the shade, Max stared at her with startled eyes that soon blinked and fell before the one ray of light. Plenty of time for that. You must be patient now and get them thoroughly well, or they will trouble you again when it will be harder to spare them, she said with tears in her own eyes. I won't do it. I will study and get through somehow. It's all humbug about taking care so long. These doctors like to keep hold of a fellow if they can, but I won't stand it. I vow I won't.
And he banged his fist down on the unoffending pillow as if he were pummeling the hard-hearted doctor. Now, Mac, listen to me, Rose said very earnestly, though her voice shook a little and her heart ached. You know you have hurt your eyes reading by firelight and in the dusk and sitting up late. And now you'll have to pay for it. The doctor said so. You must be careful and do as he tells you, or you will be blind. No! Yes, it is true, and he wanted us to tell you that nothing but entire rest would cure you. I know it's dreadfully hard, but we'll all help you. I'll read all day long and lead you and wait upon you and try to make it easier. She stopped there, for it was evident that he did not hear a sound. The word blind seemed to have knocked him down, for he had buried his face in the pillow and lay so still that Rose was frightened. She sat motionless for many minutes, longing to comfort him, but not knowing how, and wishing Uncle Alec would come, for he had promised to tell Mac. Presently, a sort of choking sound came out of the pillow and went straight to her heart, the most pathetic sob she ever heard. For though it was the most natural means of relief, the poor fellow must not indulge in it because of the afflicted eyes. The French Revolution tumbled out of her lap, and running to the sofa, she knelt down by it, saying with the motherly sort of tenderness girls feel for any sorrowing creature, "Oh, my dear, you mustn't cry. It is so bad for your poor eyes. Take your head out of that hot pillow and let me cool it. I don't wonder you feel so, but please don't cry. I'll cry for you. It won't hurt me."
And saw the green shade all crushed and stained with the few hot tears that told how bitter the disappointment had been. Mac held her sympathy, but, being a boy, did not thank her for it, only sat up with a jerk, saying as he tried to rub away the telltale drops with the sleeve of his jacket, "Don't bother, we guys always water. I'm all right." But Rose cried out and caught his arm. "Don't touch them with that rough woolen stuff. Lie down and let me bathe them. There's a dear boy. Then there will be no harm done. They do smart confoundedly. I say, don't you tell the other fellows that I made a baby of myself, will you?" he added, yielding with a sigh to the orders of his nurse, who had flown for the eye-wash and linen cambric handkerchief. "Of course I won't. But anyone would be upset at the idea of being bad troubled in this way. I'm sure you bear it splendidly, and you know it isn't half so bad when you get used to it. Besides, it is only for a time, and you can do lots of pleasant things if you can't study. You'll have to wear blue goggles, perhaps. Won't that be funny?" And while she was pouring out all the comfortable words she could think of, Rose was softly bathing the eyes and dabbing the hot forehead with lavender water, as her patient lay quiet, with a look on his face that grieved her sadly. Homer was blind, and so was Milton, and they did something to be remembered by in spite of it, he said, as if to himself, in a solemn tone, for even the blue goggles did not bring a smile. Papa had a picture of Milton and his daughters writing for him. It was a very sweet picture, I thought, observed Rose in a serious voice, trying to meet the sufferer on his own ground. "Perhaps I could study if someone read and did the eye part. Do you suppose I could, by and by?"
he asked, with a sudden ray of hope.
I dare say, if your head is strong enough. This sunstroke, you know, is what upset you, and your brain needs rest, the doctor says. I'll have a talk with the old fellow next time he comes and find out just what I may do. Then I shall know where I am. What a fool I was that day to be stewing my brains and letting the sun glare on my book till the letters danced before me. I see 'em now when I shut my eyes. Black balls bobbing round and stars and all sorts of queer things. Wonder if all blind people do. Don't think about them. I'll go on reading, shall I? We shall come to the exciting part soon, and then you'll forget all this, suggested Rose. No, I never shall forget. Hang the old revolution. I don't want to hear another word of it. My head aches and I'm hot. Oh, wouldn't I like to go for a pull in the stormy petrel? And poor Mac tossed about as if he did not know what to do with himself. Let me sing, and perhaps you'll drop off. Then the day will seem shorter, said Rose, taking up a fan and sitting down beside him.
Perhaps I shall. I didn't sleep much last night, and when I did, I dreamed like fun. See here, you tell the people that I know, and it's all right, and I don't want them to talk about it or howl over me. That's all. Now, drone away, and I'll try to sleep. Wish I could for a year and wake up cured. Oh, I wish you could. Rose said it so fervently that Mac was moved to grope for her apron and hold on to a corner of it, as if it was comfortable to feel her near him. But all he said was, "You are a good little soul, Rosie. Give us the Burks. That is a drowsy one that always sends me off." Quite contented with this small return for all her sympathy, Rose waved her fan and sang, in a dreamy tone, the pretty Scotch air, the burden of which is, "Bonnie lassie, will ye gang, to the Burks of Aberfeldy." Whether the lassie went or not, I cannot say, but the laddie was off to the land of Nod in about 10 minutes, quite worn out from hearing the bad tidings and the effort to bear them manfully.